Hey Spencer, hope you're great. Want to follow through on what you and I were texting about. Want to build on the concept of the dynamic pick approach, and was thinking about that, but I realized I actually needed to step back and kind of speak to a larger truth, a larger musical truth, to then get back to picking up the thread that you and I have been interacting on about a more dynamic, picking approach or pick strum approach. The larger truth is that you need to think about music. Musicians are looking for the spaces where there's collisions and transitions. You're looking for things in your playing and things in what you pull together for music where there's a change between chords or noises, and that's where musicians make art happen. So some examples: when you set up your amplifier, you want it in that sweet spot where it's clean when you're picking lightly, but it gains up if you spank the strings. So that's a transitionary period, and you want to use that and incorporate that in your playing as part of how you make yourself get heard. Another example would be as you're learning chords, you'll hear that things like a sus2 or a sus4, those suspended chords, the reason they're called suspended chords is because they make things rub together and hold tension in the moment. You need. And so that sus4 tone is another one of those collisions and transitions that you have. And as you're moving between chords, you include those because they move the groove forward. So again, a musician is looking for those spaces, and where they choose to add those accents and things are what help them make their voice and what makes the music sound that much more complex and sophisticated, and more importantly, directional. For guitarists, one of the ways that you exist in the place of transitions and collisions is when you set up a groove and then move to play fills in between the groove. So you grab a beat or two and put a fill in. That would be a place where you're holding the groove and transitioning and making your playing interesting by doing it that way. Now, another place, and this now I can go back to the thread that we had, is the transition between when you're picking or strumming, and how you move between those is how you inject energy and direction in your playing, and it's where your unique voice happens. So if you're looking to find that space of transitions and collisions, and you're trying to take on a dynamic picking approach that does that, we've already started with the concept of, say, using a thumb pick, and we've also talked about how, and especially when I saw the video that your dad shared of you playing the 00 capo 3 fret, doing a kind of a fingerstyle approach, that's rooted on the picking side of the spectrum. That's more picky than strummy, but you're driving it so hard that it's almost getting a strum groove to it. So you're getting a feel for where that space, that you want to be in that space. Yes, you're doing finger picking, but man, you're trying to drive a groove into it. So I figured out, if you're doing that, then the next place to go would be coming at it from the other side. In other words, if you're taking more strummy approach, how can you add some detail or articulation within that context that puts you in that middle gray space? And I realized I do something, I don't really have a name for it. I came up with a name for this little snippet here. I guess I would call it articulate strumming, where I'm setting up a flywheel. I'm doing so my right hand is moving, but at the same time, I'm doing some very precise things with it. So that's English Beat, save it for later. The original song has an alternate tuning, but this sells the groove reasonably well. But I think you saw what I was doing, where on one hand it's a strum, and it's a full throated strum. I'm not holding back in any way, shape, or form, and yet over the years I've gotten to a place where I can articulate very specific strings, and in this case I'm hitting the groove on that D. So it's enough, like clockwork, I'm nailing that D. And so introducing that within the context of a strum groove is like next level, and it gets you in that transitionary collision-y space where, depending on when you do it, it propels the music forward and gives it direction. Another 80s song that does this would be Melt With You. So you've got the standard strum. That was good. Anyway, you hear the point. I shift between a straight-on strum to that more articulate strumming, and then, of course, that absolutely wonderful clam. And learning how to control that dynamic and develop enough precision so that in the middle of a full-power strum, you're able to hit certain strings is kind of the next level that I would suggest you need to be seeking. A good place to start would be Norwegian Wood by the Beatles, if you don't already know it, because by definition, just the whole groove is built around emphasizing certain strings while you're strumming. And so once you get a feel for that, then you expand that out and see if you can go a little bit more full. So sorry this took so long. I hope the point is solid. And if you have any other questions, by all means, please let me know. Take care, man.